diversity and diversity targets working into the Aviate Academy?
We have committed that 50% of the class of the classes will be women or people of color. Today, only 19% of our pilots at United Airlines are women or people of color. And by the way, from all the data I've seen, that's the highest of any airline in the country.
White males don't just dominate in the cockpits, also in the C-suite at United Airlines.
Well, look, at United, I'm proud of the diversity that we actually have in our C-suite. I think if you look around corporate America.
Correct me if I'm saying, though, so this was just based off your website, the people you list as executives, but out of 11 people, 3 are women. I believe 1 is a person of color.
That's correct.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have a great and wonderful day, but unfortunately here, it's not too great. At least when it comes down to, this in this fact matter point, because the FAA is doing something crazy. It's doing something so insane that I don't know if anybody is going to come out alive when they're being flown on a plane. What I mean by this is, my friends, is that America's safety at risk as FAA's latest diversity push puts the woke mob at the controls. It might be time to stop flying those friendly skies, America. The FAA has gone all in on DEI. The agency charged with overseeing airlines, plane makers, airports, and every other aspect of civil aviation in America has undertaken a diversity push meant to bring in workers whose inborn limitations make them plainly unsuitable for high-stakes, high-pressure roles. The full list of disabilities targeted for special emphasis in the recruitment and hiring includes severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and a whole host of other ailments. You read that right. The severely intellectually disabled and the psychiatrically disabled, that's an euphemism for crazy, will now be involved in making sure that planes don't hit the ground on or each other. Worse still, the agency won't even say which jobs these targeted hires will be doing, responding with opaque bobble when pressed or for comment on just where a severely intellectually disabled person fits into the overall org chart. Given the recent Alaska Airlines almost disaster due to a fully plane from a full-bore woke Boeing and the troubling string of near misses at U.S. airports, to say nothing of the other issues plaguing air travel, from unruly passengers to cascading to delays, the FAA needs to be pushing to hire only the best and brightest. Not handing out pity gigs to check identity boxes. That's what this plainly is, by the way. And if a disabled candidate can do a given job, and many of them can, there's no reason they need a special targeted program to get hired. It's why a shrill activist class, when anyone points out the obvious wrinkles of such a program, takes to X and TikTok to denounce them as ableist, sexist, or worse, as happened in Elon Musk when slammed Boeing for safety failures. These people have no argument beyond finger pointing. So, again, here's where our lives are being held at. Our lives, guys, are being played with here. This is just straight up being the truth here. Our lives are being played with. Because there is no way in any God's green earth that you would allow somebody with mental issues, and I'm not talking about like mood swings or what have you, I'm not talking about those type of mental issues, but like actually, lack for a better word, retarded people to fly our planes. Now, I don't have a problem with the mentally handicapped. My God, I can't even pronounce that word. Mentally handicapped. The only reason why I have an issue with this is because there are some jobs to where you cannot allow people to do this. Now, as you see in the video prior to that, you have seen where, like, this guy really wants to make it to where he's just hiring people based on gender and race besides their actual merit, which is leading to all sorts of other issues. Again, and now they want to hire people with mental issues to potentially either fly our planes or fuel our jets or what have you, and this is a serious problem. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there are some very highly intellectual people that have mental disabilities. I will be the first to know this. But the thing is that reality has to sink in. We have to understand that when it comes to life or death situations here, these are things that you just cannot do it. Now, obviously, there probably might be an outlier for one of those people where they're actually excellent at their job, right? That's one thing. But that does not mean it's a majority. And the problem is now when you have these people working on your planes or what have you, or flying your planes, you can lead to something a serious tragic disaster. And what's worse is that these people, if a tragedy does happen, which is bound to happen at some point sooner or later, they will hide it behind some type of PR BS, right? They won't even announce it. And that's the problem we have here, right? We have these issues, and now they're playing with our lives. They do not care for what's happening to us. They are playing with our lives because they do not care. And I would want to see where the U.S. Supreme Court or somebody to come in and say, like, no, you can't do this. This is highly illegal. This is incredibly dangerous because people are going to die. People are going to die. It's just straight up the reality. So we have this here. We have, from lips of TikTok, CEO of United says he takes race and gender into account when hiring and laments there's too many white males in the airline industry. You know that 30-second video that I showed you at the beginning of this? Well, here's the full clip here of what's going on. It's just disturbing beyond all measures.
How is diversity and diversity targets working into the Aviate Academy?
We have committed that 50% of the classes will be women or people of color. Today, only 19% of our pilots at United Airlines are women or people of color. And by the way, from all the data I've seen, that's the highest of any airline in the country.
White males don't just dominate in the cockpits, also in the C-suite at United Airlines.
Well, look, at United, I'm proud of the diversity that we actually have in our C-suite. I think if you look around corporate America.
Correct me if I'm saying, though, so this was just based off your website, the people you list as executives, but out of 11 people, 3 are women. I believe 1 is a person of color.
That's correct. But, in corporate America, I think,
That's a low bar. How do you raise your own bar?
Well, a lot of this is, focusing on it. We have programs one of the things we do is for every job when we do an interview, we require women and people of color to be involved in the interview process, bringing people in early in their careers as well, and giving them those opportunities and creating a...
Yeah, so this is not good. He is actively racially discriminating against people. Last time I checked, that was against one of I may believe the 14th Amendment. So maybe that might not be the greatest thing to do. Maybe you shouldn't, discriminate against people against their race and gender because that's against the law. That's highly illegal. Perhaps the United States Supreme Court should probably intervene. Because he's doing something highly illegal. Now, we have something even more dire here. This has been going on for years, and it's like Boeing's manufacturing mess. Long before the harrowing Alaska Airlines blowout on January 5th, there were concerns with Boeing about the way this aerospace giant was building its planes. Boeing, like so many other American manufacturers, was outsourcing more and more of the components that went into its complex machines. A Boeing aerospace engineer presented a controversial white paper in 2001 at an internal technical symposium. The engineer, John Hart Smith, warned colleagues of the risks of the subtracting strategies, especially if Boeing outsourced too much work and didn't provide sufficient on-site quality and technical support to suppliers. The performance of the prime manufacturer can never exceed the capabilities of the least proficient of the suppliers, Hart Smith wrote. These costs do not vanish merely because the work itself is out of sight. The paper became a sensation when Boeing was passed along engineers posted on a factory walls. Hart Smith, after he later retired from Boeing, said of his warning of excessive outsourcing is common sense. 2 decades later, Boeing is reckoning with the fallout from its outsourcing strategy. The Alaska accident is the latest in a string of quality problems at Boeing, whose engineering prowess created the 747 that helped usher in the global jet age. The company's reputation has suffered from a pair of fatal 737 MAX 8 crashes in 2018 and 2019 that grounded hundreds of jets for nearly 2 years. More recently, Boeing has been dogged by issues with various models, misdrilled holes, loose rudder bolts, and this month's MAX 9 door plug blowout lapses the company failed to catch. Many of the problems with Boeing jets since the deadly crashes can be traced back to a production system adopted by Boeing and its aerospace rivals before Hart Smith's paper. Dozens of factories build key pieces of 737 and 787 jets before they are assembled by Boeing. One of them is a sprawling fuselage plant in Wichita, Kansas, that Boeing owned until 2005. At the time, then Boeing executive Alan Mully said selling the factory to a private equity firm would let Boeing focus on final assembly where it could add the most value to its airplanes. Yeah, so this is what's going on here, right? This is the insanity. And we're having all these issues, right? All these issues, and this is making this seem here where America's safety risk at FAA's latest emergency pushes the woke mob at the controls, where they're hiring mentally intellectual people that have issues, right? They have mental problems, and this is all the issues that's going on here in the Boeing industry, like in the airspace industry. This is a problem here. They're not just hurting us with the DEI. Well, they are hurting us with the boat, which is pretty much 100% DEI, but they're hurting us with just hiring people that are literally mentally deficient and cannot perform, and then they're doing the DEI, which people are not the best for the job. I say they're actively trying to kill people at this point. This is what I believe, because there's no way you can say they're not actively trying to kill people when they're not hiring people based on their merit, and when they're not actually when they're hiring people that are mentally disabled, right? They are not there in the head. Like, this is absurd in so many ways. Like, this is insanity to me. And the fact that we're going to have this problem persist in America is insanity, and we need to do something about this, because there's just no way that this is just constantly ongoing. It is, people are going to die. People are going to die, and I highly recommend people not flying in these airplanes, or at the very least, not fly Alaska Airlines, because your guys' life are literally at risk. I will not fly Alaska Airlines. This is insanity. People are going to die, and they're going to get into a massive lawsuit, and they should honestly be shut down immediately. All right, guys, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, share. As always, take care.
I'm disgusted by what I see in public. Even people closest to us can't be trusted. This is algorithmic disease, the social media.